Good morning. Being 9 a.m., I'll call to order the McHenry County Board Committee of the Whole meeting of July 16th, 2026, and Mr. Kaminsky will lead us in the pledge today.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Kathy, will you please call the roll?
Pamela Altoff. Here. Carolyn Campbell. Here. John Collins. Here. Joseph Gottemoller. Terry Greeno. Here. Eric Hendricks. Carl Kaminsky.
Present.
Jim Kearns. Dina Krieger. Here. Matthew Kunkel.
Here.
Brian Sager.
Here.
Michael Shorten.
Here.
Michael Scala.
Present.
Larry Smith.
Here.
Patrick Sullivan.
Here.
Paul Thomas.
Here.
Gloria Van Hoff.
Present.
Tracy Von Bergen.
Here.
Chairman Bueller.
Here. Having a quorum, will proceed. Mr. Kearns, I think you might be muted. I do see you online. With that, I'll entertain a motion to allow Mr. Kearns to attend remotely. Mr. Sager makes the motion, seconded by Mr. Shorten. Mr. Kearns, could you state your reason for remote attendance? We didn't hear you. Is there a reason? Okay, maybe technical difficulties here. Mr. Kearns in his email stated it was a work-related reason. So all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion carries. Good morning. I have a few items to report before we review the items for the July 21st voting meeting. On next Tuesday's agenda, appearing together under new and unfinished business, there will be 3 resolutions regarding referenda to potentially be submitted to the McHenry County voters at the November 3rd election. The first, which I have submitted, is a non-binding referendum to gauge the public's opinion regarding whether the General Assembly should repeal laws that prevent county and local governments from exercising zoning authority over wind, solar, and large-scale residential developments. The second is a binding referendum asking voters whether McHenry County should become a home rule county and adopt the county executive form of government. This resolution was tabled by Administrative Services. The third is an advisory referendum asking the voters their opinion on whether McHenry County should become a home rule county and adopt the county executive form of government. This resolution was passed by Administrative Services. It will appear under new and unfinished business to keep it beside the other 2 resolutions. I look forward to the debate and conversation over these proposed questions. Also, a proclamation has been added to special recognitions designating McHenry County as a Gold Star community to honor the memories of those who gave their lives in service to our nation and the families that they left behind. To close on a positive note, it's my pleasure to report that McHenry County has received a number of awards and honors in recent weeks. Our finance department was recently informed by the Government Finance Officers Association that it received its Distinguished Budget Presentation Award for the fiscal year 2026 budget. As you may have seen on our social media accounts, Circuit Clerk Kathy Keefe was recently profiled by the website of the Illinois Supreme Court Commission on Professionalism. Our Department of Health was honored by the American Red Cross of Greater Chicago with its Westbury Leadership Award for its emergency preparedness program. The Federal Highway Administration also announced that our Division of Transportation's ongoing pollinator habitat initiative was named the Illinois winner for its Build a Better Mousetrap Award. And last but not least, I want to recognize the 3 members of the McHenry County Public Information Officer Network: Deputy County Administrator Alicia Schuler, Department of Health PIO Nick Kubiak, and Woodstock Fire Rescue District PIO Alex Vuka for completing FEMA's challenging week-long advanced PIO course. All of these people who brought us these recognitions are a credit to our organization, and their commitment to the county is greatly appreciated. And that's all I have today. Do any members have comments? Mr. Kaminsky?
Over this past weekend, the little village of Johnsburg celebrated America's 250th birthday with a fantastic annual fireworks, but went way out this time. I'd like to thank the McHenry County Marine Unit as well as Lake County's Marine Unit, our Coast Guard Auxiliary, the village president, Mr. Ed Hederman, and his staff, and the Public Works, the dozens and dozens of volunteers that helped to pull off this shindig. There were hundreds and hundreds of cars, thousands of people, and numerous hundreds of golf carts that all forged on a little historical hotel, the Oak Park, to watch one of the few fireworks that are actually lit off on the lake. With all that, there was hardly none instances. People came back, with all their digits. There were folks walking with their bambinos and pulling them in their wagons to forge their way over there with no incidences. Afterwards, I took off the next morning to do errands, and something surprising, as I exited the area, there was not one straw, not one cup, not one can. The area was as pristine as the day before. It was a fantastic celebration, went off without a hitch, a lot of hard work from a lot of folks that are dedicated to it. Hats off to them. If McHenry wants to know how to put on a big shindig, come talk to us in Johnsburg. We know how to do it. Also, this weekend is the conclusion of Fiesta Days, and if you have time, come on down Sunday for their parade. It's well worth it. Thank you.
Seeing no other member comments, we'll proceed to public comment. Just a reminder that public comment is your opportunity to address the board. You'll have 3 minutes in which to do so, at which time the red light in front of me will come on, and I would ask you to summarize your comments if you haven't done so already. First up will be Costa Iftica, followed by Nancy Stumbaugh.
Good morning. My name is Costa Iftica.
Let me get the mic turned up first.
Perfect. Good morning. My name is Costa Iftica. I'm a resident of Richmond Township and a former township trustee. In 2021, developers tried to build a massive 190 space RV park just 1,500 feet from our house, even attempting to annex into the village to bypass county ordinances. My neighbors and I organized, and after a 4-hour hearing, we successfully stopped it. That fight taught me the value of our zoning laws. Even prior to my tenure, township residents and former board members made it clear that the assessor's office belonged in a public building, not a private residence. Many others have stated the same since. I served on the board from 2021 to 2025 and made it a priority to ensure this was finally resolved. By the end of 2025, a dedicated, code-compliant, and ADA accessible assessor's office was completed inside our township building. It was fully permitted and inspected. Thanks to trustees volunteering their time and expertise, the total cost was less than the $3,000 of taxpayer dollars the petitioner just spent on zoning attorney for this private residence variance. There is an office for the assessor. The real issue is it doesn't fit her bloated personnel of 3 part-time workers. An elected official cannot be forced to work out of the township office, but she cannot claim a lack of space hardship. The space exists and is currently used for storage. This variance request is an administrative staffing choice. It is not a physical hardship. Making this exception creates a slippery slope that will be used over and over for future petitioners. Let's nip it in the bud before it starts. I urge you to apply our zoning laws equally and vote no on Agenda 10.A.1. Thank you for your time and for all you do for McHenry County.
Nancy Stumbaugh, followed by Renee Wiegert.
Good morning. My name is Nancy Stumbaugh. I first spoke with the board back in December in opposition to a solar farm that was being put up behind my home in Union. At that meeting, several of my neighbors and I spoke about the consequences of putting an unknown health risk unknown health hazard directly on a sensitive aquifer recharging area. We spoke about how putting an energy facility here could be devastating to our water supply and health. We spoke about the EMFs, that EMFs are real and that their health consequences are unknown. The majority of you agreed with us and courageously voted down this proposal. We are wondering what has changed in 7 months that makes this hazard less serious. I understand that the solar farm developers were disappointed with the vote and decided to sue the county, but I wonder how much consideration was given to the lives and the safety of the community while these court cases were happening. There is a Supreme Court precedent on matters like this. It says that the LaSalle factors outweigh the states lawmakers think is safe for the community they do not live in. Were the LaSalle factors even brought up in any of these court cases? Were the risks of our health even discussed? The board has been put in place to better the lives of everyone in this county. Decisions you make at these meetings have direct effect on the people in your community, your friends, your neighbors, your loved ones. I am one of the several people in your community begging you to stop these solar farms from being passed. You may not be personally impacted by them, but we are. We came here today so that you can see one of the many faces of the people that you would be condemning by allowing these to continue. This world has gone to hell in a handbasket, and the only place that some of us can find peace, comfort, and refuge from all of this is at our homes with our loved ones. This is being stolen from us. But when presented with the option to do the right thing and to protect the lives of innocent people, animals, and farmland, I do not understand why this is even up for discussion. Please do not make government subsidies for solar farms more important than people's health. Please vote no to solar on these inappropriate locations, and yes to preserving the lives of the people who do make up this beautiful county. Thank you for your time.
Renee Wiegert, followed by Valerie Sorik.
We live in a world filled with endless urgency. Somewhere along the way, we've lost the ability to pause, to think deeply, and remember what truly matters. We've been focused on progress, that we've forgotten our purpose. I ask everyone in this room to join me in 20 minutes of silence, because reflection speaks louder than words. Let's silence the noise, the distractions, the outside influences surrounding next week's revote on the proposed solar farms. And the next minute and the next moment alone with our conscience, with the weight of our decisions and the legacy they will leave for generations to come. Let's begin. For many of us, that felt very uncomfortable, and for good reason. And for others, your conscience met up with you, or you simply sat numb in a state of confusion. During those 20 seconds, I wasn't thinking about solar farms. I wasn't thinking about lawsuits or developers. I was thinking about the young man camping on his property in a tent just 150 feet from where this proposed solar plant is to be placed. I was thinking about the families who saved for decades to buy a home where they believe they will always be surrounded by open, fertile farmland, clean water, and wildlife. I was thinking about the children who haven't yet been born, who would one day inherit whatever we choose to leave behind. The law in place may define your options, but it does not eliminate your choice. Next Tuesday is not just a vote. It will signify how far McHenry County is willing to go to protect its land, its people, and its natural resources. Other counties will be watching your lead. They are in the same predicament. One day, every seat in this room will be occupied by the next generation. The only thing that will remain is the legacy of the decisions that you leave behind. The future generations will ask, what happened here? I hope the answer isn't simply, we did what we were told. I hope it's, we did everything within our power
Summarize your
to
comments, please.
protect our land, our resources, and the people we serve. There is always a choice. I urge you to see this through. Thank you.
Valerie Kozik, is it? Kazak, my apologies, followed by Kelly Liebman.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Valerie Kazak, and I live at 6405 Dunham Road in Union. And this is my second time I'm speaking in regards to the solar farms. The solar farm that is proposed behind my house. I was wondering what exactly in the 7 months that we've been here, what has changed? Why are we back here? Did the aquifer move? Did the homes that live directly around where this is going to be, the homes of 30, 40 years, they live across the road, have they moved? There has been no movement. Nothing has changed. So why are we back here? Back in December, you all made a decision. It wasn't an easy decision, but it was a decision that you made. All we're asking for is what changed. You were strong, you made a decision back then, you knew that was right. There's people that live there, right there. This is not in a farmland that, that's a half a mile away from the nearest home. There is a home right in the center of where this is going to be, a farm directly east of it, and homes directly across the road where people live there. They have their lives, they've raised their families. Please, you made the correct decision before. Don't let anybody bamboozle you to change your mind. You've stood up before, you have a backbone, you used it. Please, do it again. For my grandchildren, for my children, for the people there. Maybe someday your grandchildren are going to buy a house in Union. It is a really nice town. Thomas comes in all the time, Thomas the train, of course, and it's a great place to live. How would you feel 5 years down the road, you go to visit them, and your grandson says, hey, can I have a glass of water, Mom? And as the mom is pouring that glass of water and handing it to your grandchild, and you look at that glass of water, and you wonder, is that contaminated from that solar farm that I allowed to go through? Please, stand up for the rights of everybody. I've lived here for 30 years, and I love it, as well as all my neighbors. Please, make the right decision. Say no. You said no before? Please, say no again. Thank you so much.
Kelly Liebman, followed by Emily Grant.
A county executive can weaken the influence of a county board in several ways, including expanding executive control over administration, using appointment authority, budget control, limiting the flow of information, veto power, administrative reorganization, negotiating contracts, and using emergency powers. A referendum presented to elected officials and voters before sufficient public education and discussion risks creating significant problems. A change from a county board form of government to a county executive system should not be considered without thorough planning, clear public information, and answers to key concerns. I, along with several board members, continue to have questions that have not been answered during public meetings. The discussions in the Law and Government, Finance and Audit, and Administrative Services Committees over the past month and a half have consistently reflected a need for additional information before moving forward. Several fundamental questions remain unanswered. Why did Will and Champaign counties pass county executive referenda without the home rule component? Did the state's attorney give an opinion on whether a county can become a home rule county without moving toward a county executive? Why would the board go forward with a referendum in which the county is not prepared should it pass? What would having a county executive and home rule county entail? What are the nuts and bolts of what it takes to disassemble the current system governing McHenry County and establishing a new county executive role? A home rule county is not subject to PTEL property tax extension limitations. What additional taxes and fees will the county have the power to enact without voter approval if the home rule county executive referendum passes? Would the county board have a voice or vote on future tax proposals, or would the county executive have the sole discretion? Is there anything the county board could do if McHenry County became home rule that could set any additional structure to put limitations on future boards to create new taxes? Will the jail have home rule exception in regard to the ICE contract that was canceled in 2022? Until these questions are answered publicly and the implications of both a county executive and home rule are clearly explained to board members and residents, I do not believe this referendum is ready to move forward. The public deserves a transparent process that allows voters to make an informed decision. Thank you.
Emily Grant, followed by Steve Kreisky, is it?
Wow, what a great representation there on home rule. Thank you. British historian John Glubb famously observed that empires last an average of 220 to 250 years. In his theory of the rise and fall of civilizations, the sixth stage is the age of decadence, followed by the final stage, decline and collapse, a time marked by pessimism, weakened institutions, and the loss of civic responsibility. Standing here today, it feels as though we are experiencing that decline, not just nationally or at the state level, but here at the local level as well. I see it in this room, where it seems many of your hands have been metaphorically tied behind your backs. Once this issue entered litigation with the solar farms, nearly everything moved behind closed courtroom doors and into conversations between attorneys, away from the public that you were elected to represent. Your primary responsibility as the county board is to serve as the county's legislative, fiscal, and policy-making body. We, the people of McHenry County, are asking you to continue fulfilling that responsibility. You already voted on this issue once. My question is simple. Will you truly get to vote on Tuesday, or has that decision effectively already been made by the judge? Will your vote reflect your independent judgment, or merely the outcome of a legal process beyond your little control? You also have a responsibility to advocate for your constituents. While this issue may not have a major fiscal impact on the county, it represents a significant injustice for McHenry County residents. As a Collier County to Chicago, we have been disproportionately affected. So I ask, who among you will take this fight to Springfield? Who will work to correct the state laws and policies that have put our communities in this position? I've seen you lobby for all types of things down in Springfield. You got gaming. You got all types of things passed. What about something for the people? Truly have a backbone. Your power of elected position, please continue to stand with the people who elected you and hear my plea on behalf of the people of McHenry County. vote to defeat Water Locust Solar and these other solar farms Tuesday night. Thank you.
Steve Kreisky, is it? Followed by Dan Volkers.
I actually had it marked that I wasn't going to speak, but I will speak. This proposed site is right next to my house. 100% against it. It's going to be an eyesore. It's something we really don't want, and I appreciate everyone's vote the first time that shot it down. We really don't want that here. We're concerned about the health risks. I have a grandson that's 6 years old that lives with us. Just lost his mother. He has stage 2 autism. He has a very hard time with loud noises. I'm very concerned about the pounding of the posts and all the construction noise that will be made when if this site is actually going to be constructed. So we're very, very concerned about that. And I'm hoping that this board can shoot this down again, vote no, and I'd appreciate your vote no for this construction site. That's all I have.
Dan Volkers.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, first of all, for your service. I have a great appreciation for what you do. I appreciate the opportunity to address you in this format. In March of 2025, McHenry County government posted on their social media site, "Thank you to McHenry County Farm Bureau for coming out Tuesday evening's county board meeting as members passed a proclamation honoring and supporting agriculture. Farming and agriculture is not only a huge part of McHenry County's economy, but also our way of life." That night, my Farm Bureau President, Chris McKee, had the honor of standing in front here, and I got to take the picture of all of you together. It's been my honor to represent Farm Bureau members for more than 25 years, and more than 20 of those right here in McHenry County. McHenry County Farm Bureau is a non-for-profit membership organization that currently represents 667 farm families, up 24 members this month, so got to plug that in. We represent them on local, state, and national issues. Livestock sales in our county typically exceed 30 million annually, and we are recognized in the Census of Agriculture as top producers of sheep, goats, and dairy within the state. But did you know that we're also ranked number 2 in the state for horses and donkeys? I have to ask, were the equine groups represented in the proposed animal ordinances? I had some county board members that were initially unhappy with me that I didn't publicly address the board last month before you put the animal ordinances on 30-day review. I personally got wind of these proposals in late May, and my board didn't receive documents until June. Policies and procedures are important. It's part of the reason our organization is trusted and been here for more than 100 years. I needed my board to adopt a position before I could speak up. They did their part. They developed a task force. They took positions. They provided those to you. Those positions have not changed. I personally appreciate Member Altoff and Member Sager for their work and their proposed amendments. That said, McHenry County Farm Bureau received the last revised copy this week and have not had the opportunity to address them, nor will they by your Tuesday night meeting. McHenry County Farm Bureau is asking that the county and the respective committees for a vote no on the current ordinance or any amendments to such ordinance until we have the time to work with the county and respective committees on mutually accepted solutions. Early in my career, we had a county agritourism task force, Farm Bureau members, farmers, county staff, board members, the public. None of us got everything we wanted, but we came out of it with good policy that helped McHenry County become the destination that is today. Today, I ask the members of the McHenry County Board make it clear to our organization and our farmer members that you are allies to agriculture. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. That concludes our public comment for today. No reports and presentations, so we'll move on to new business. Do any members have items from next Tuesday's agenda they'd like to remove for discussion? Ms. Altoff?
I would like to remove the ordinance for consideration 17.B.1, please.
Okay. Mr. Sager?
Thanks, Chair. I understand that 17.8.3 is here for review, and I appreciate that very much. So it won't be considered until the following month, but I do think it's incumbent upon us to kind of look at some specific elements of that. Absolutely D8, section D, G, I, and N. Again, those are D8 subsections D, G, I, and N, and consider how those come into, equality with what we are considering this coming meeting relative to 17.B.1. So that's just something I want to put out there.
So you want to remove that for discussion? 17.8.3?
I would. Thank you.
Okay. Any others? That's all, Mr. Sager, from you?
Yes, thank you.
Mr. Scala?
10A1 and 13B and C.
Mr. Smith?
Thank you. On the regular agenda, I have a question about the solar vote and the pursuant to consent order stuff. So 10B1, we'll call it that one. No, 10B2, I'm sorry.
10B2?
Yes.
Mr. Collins?
13A.
Any others? Seeing none, Mr. Scala, 10A1.
I pulled this because my question / comment revolves around the hearing officer's comments in the testimony in regard to, it was on page 5 of the mini packet that was for this request. And I guess my issue with this is I feel like we're getting into the politics of what's going on in the township. I don't feel like this board should weigh in on whether the assessor should have their own building or whether the assessor should, be operating out of their home. To me, that's out of our lane. I feel like our job is to simply look at the request, which is to have other employees working out of the house beyond what is beyond our ordinance. And in that regard, I don't have a problem with what the hearing officer had to say about that segment of it, but my concern is that the hearing officer also went into the political side of what's going on in the township, and that I feel is not appropriate. And I don't know how that impacts what we're being asked to vote on, but to me, that shouldn't even have been taken into consideration. What the political realms going on in the township are should not have played into this. So that's my concern with what has happened. I don't know if I don't know how to quite deal with that, because to me, that's my issue with what we have before us. Thank you.
Mr. Smith?
Thank you. And I agree with Mr. Scala. It seems to be a Richmond Township problem that they're asking us to cure by approving this variance. But on top of that, there was 20 objectors there. Staff reported receiving approximately 20 public objections regarding this request from the testimony I'm reading. And as I look through it, I don't see that it's consistent with the surrounding area. Currently, it's allowed to have one employee only. So I don't see that I'll be voting, I'll be voting no for this on Tuesday night. Thank you.
Mr. Sager?
Thanks, Chair. I do agree with my colleagues' comments. And the other thing is, I truly did not see or did not understand, perhaps, the hardship that's presented that really justifies this change. So if somebody can explain that to me. Adam, perhaps you have some insight into why that was deemed to express hardship?
Truly nothing more than what's in what was testified there. I mean, the request as we look at it is strictly for going from one, which would be allowed from an outside employee, to three. That hardship does, it touched on it. It talks about that office and going to the Richmond Township and the adequacy there. It gets into the operations. So it was a bit under glass, if you will, from our staff standpoint. And when we went through it, it was recognized that that was a request they could make.
Thank you, Adam. I appreciate that. I don't believe that that has met the requirements, and therefore I'll be voting no on this. Thank you.
Mr. Scala?
So Adam, I apologize, but so are you basically saying that if the employee doesn't have to be designated as an individual? So I guess what I'm hearing from you is that because the testimony that was given was that the employees come and go based on what is happening. So as long as there's only one employee there at a time, doesn't matter who that employee is. So you could have, in this particular case, employee A be there from such and such time to such and such time, and employee B could be there at a different time, and employee C could be there at a completely different time, as long as employee A, B, and C are not there all at the same time, or even A and C or A and B are not there.
Correct. So we will look at that from a regulatory standpoint. We look at that, we're using the definition of employment with the Illinois Accessibility Code, the building code and all that, which is at any given time. So if you have two people there at any given time during their employment, that we look at that as you have two employees or three or whatever it might be. So no, we don't look at it. If it's only 30 minutes, then they're only allowed a certain level of expectation of services from that building. You know? So no, we look at it as employees at any given time.
And the only way to be able to monitor / police that would be to try and figure out how many employees are actually there at any one particular time.
Yeah, we're reliant on what you know, the answers to the questions we ask. And when it comes to commercial operations, we have a third party. When it comes to residential, then we try to triangulate through conversations with that property owner. So there's no way to verify it.
No, right. You know, you could track cars going in and out, I guess. I mean, somehow, some way, which seems like a waste of government resources. But, you know, I don't. The short story is as long as there's only an employee there at any one particular time, then they're still in compliance.
Singular, correct.
Yes.
Then it would follow it would be allowed under the Unified Development Ordinance under the home occupation, correct.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Kaminsky?
I've got several things that don't sit right with me. One, that the township spent the money to make a facility available to her. Two, having folks that need to do government business with an assessor that are doing it at a private home instead of at the official township office. And also, it was kind of, the way I kind of interpreted it was, well, it's only gonna be for 3 years and that's all we're gonna do. Well, I have a problem with, if we looked at it this way and gave it an okay and it goes away, the next applicant that comes in and says, we wanna do it this way because you did it that way, and we have to, okay, we don't want it, but since we did it, now we gotta do it again. For that, I'm a no vote on it.
Ms. Von Bergen?
Thank you. As a former assessor, I'm not quite sure what her part-time employees are doing, but as a former assessor and the part-time employees that I had, they were often seasonal, summer help that would go out and do field work. They were not sitting in the office typically doing work there. They were out in vehicles measuring home sites and other things. I'm not quite sure with the 3 employees and the size that Richmond Township has allocated for that office. Was that brought up in any?
The size of the office at the township?
Yes.
Was introduced during the testimony. Yeah, I think 10 by 12 was stated in there, and the modifications at the residence, I believe, were double that. So it was basically 2 10 by 12 offices. It wasn't one big room, but it was double that.
I'm not really sure a 10 by 12 office space is adequate to run an assessor's office, given that there's typically public that come in that you meet with and staff that does come and go. I do support this request and I will be voting yes due to I don't believe that the township is providing adequate space for the township assessor. And I really don't think that it's our business to get political. And you know, here we have an assessor that, you know, we always want smaller government, and we have an assessor now that is trying to keep costs in line. And I don't see any reason why we should be requiring her to use that space. I can also quickly say that there are many other assessors, contracted assessors, that do work out of their home as well. So again, given that, I am a yes vote on this.
Mr. Shorten?
So is the hardship brought by the owner of the home as the owner or as the assessor?
So we look at this one as the property owner, so strictly in the owner of the residence.
I'm just trying to walk through the layers of complexities, because the owner of the home is it sounds like using township funds for a rezoning process, not a rezoning, but a change in their property to allow for that. As part of my other day job, I've been exploring this particular issue, not related to any sort of acrimony between my office and the assessor in Nunda Township, but just trying to understand the extent of, or the relation between the assessor, the board, supervisor, what have you, and ultimately it's the purview of the board to provide what the assessor needs in terms of staff, space, what have you. But ultimately, this comes down to how it affects the neighbors of the assessor, whether they're the assessor or not. And from what I've read, there's a fair amount of objection to that. So at this point, I'm going to be a no on this issue.
Mr. Collins?
Sorry to belabor this, but you, Mr. Shorten, said something that I'm confused about. These are employees of the township, correct? That she has working, or the assessor has working at the home?
Correct.
So the home is really not a business. because they're not working for her, they're working for the township. So how can we apply this to that home if they're township employees or even part-time employees? This is not a, does that make sense what I'm asking? It seems to me like the whole request is not proper in itself. It's not a business because they work for the township. It's not a township office.
It was heavily discussed, right, in our office in terms of the petition, and we recognize it as that operation. Now, the extension of the township offices, we recognize that this is not owned by the township. So I respect that perspective, but we didn't see it that way, and I guess it didn't stop us from accepting that application.
Okay. All right, thank you, I appreciate that.
Okay, seeing no further discussion on this item,
I
Mr.
had one question.
Go ahead, Mr. Kearns.
Did the township trustees approve the assessor working out of their home?
I don't have that.
Are they
information.
against this? Is that what brought this forward?
I don't have that information on whether or not the township brought this issue forward. There was discussion during the testimony and whether or not one of the objectors was part of that, and the statement made was no. Unfamiliar with the characters involved. I accept that for what it is.
So the objectors, were they the neighbors then?
There was a mix of neighbors for sure, yeah.
And did this initiate because of an initial complaint to our department?
We did have a, yes, we did. The source of that, I'm unsure. Whether it was neighborhood or whether it was townships, that I'm unsure. I can confirm.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, seeing no further comment, Mr. Smith, 10B2.
Thank you. We have some of these solar properties that have gone to court, and it comes back and it says pursuant to consent order. And I'm not a lawyer, so I was just hoping that we could get an explanation about what pursuant to consent order is, and if I'm in any type of legal trouble, depending on my vote one way or the other.
Hi, Laura Scary from the State's Attorney's Office, and I have Kevin Chernowski from the State's Attorney's Office. The consent order is essentially it's a settlement agreement following the lawsuit that was initiated in the circuit court here in this county. And so once the consent order was put before the court signed off on it, and unless you have some further comments to make, but that's where we are.
Okay, so the consent order was an agreement between us and the petitioner that this is how this is gonna go down.
Yes.
So the court would be no recourse against me, my vote one way or the other. This is just an agreement between us and them.
That is correct, and it's consistent with matters that had been discussed in between the time the lawsuit was filed until the consent order was entered by the court, which is a court order.
Okay, thank you.
And the way I read it, I'm not an attorney either, but the court has ordered us to vote a certain way. What are the repercussions if the board does not pass this?
You want to, pardon me?
Contempt.
Yes, it is contempt.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Okay, we're lit up now. Ms. Altoff.
I did kind of just want to address, because several of these solar farms are within District 6. So there is a huge effort by this board, by myself personally, with legislators in Springfield to address this issue. You see it on our agenda for Tuesday night. There are referendum questions being discussed and considered specifically because of what's happened to our local control with regard to both solar farms as well as now potential residential development and additional housing. If you think we are not devastated to a person up here, you are absolutely wrong. We are. This is extraordinarily distressing to all of us that we no longer can literally take a position. What's changed is the court order. They are telling us exactly what we must do. If we do not do it, not only will we be in contempt, but we will be saddled with massive amounts of cost. And our responsibility as board members is exactly to every single taxpayer in McHenry County. And that sounds harsh and ugly, and I hate it. And again, it's why we are distressed at the issues that are put in front of us that we no longer have any control over. We will continue to fight. I give you that, my personal word. I mean, I have, in quotes, colleagues in Springfield that I have dealt with for over 17 years. I will continue to advocate to give us back the control we so desperately need on all of our constituents' behalf. That is a promise, and I think I can make that promise for every single person sitting up here, because in private conversations to, again, an individual, everyone is devastated with our current status with regard specifically to solar and potentially to residential development, telling us how many units we put on an acre of property. So I appreciate the bind we're in, but it's pretty clear to me that the court has told us what we must do. Thank you.
Ms. Greeno.
So for clarification, let's say that this fails, or let's say that it passes, okay, that it's approved by the board. Will the people who vote against it be held in contempt of court? Of the ordinance, of the?
Can speak to that.
Yep.
So the court order specifies that the board shall pass it. It does not specify that any one individual on the board shall vote in a certain way.
Okay, and so basically we have the judiciary telling the legislative what it has to do.
Well, not exactly. I have to be careful because I don't want to violate attorney-client privilege discussions. But there have been a number of discussions regarding the solar farms, and the consent orders have been entered pursuant to those discussions. I hope that makes sense, Ms. Greeno.
So what you're stating is that those board members would have been aware that this would be the consequence of where we were moving with the resolution of the lawsuits? That we would have been aware?
I can't speak to what the board members were aware of.
Oh.
But we have had discussions regarding the solar projects.
True. This board member was not aware that there would be a contempt of court and a forced vote, so just to set that.
It's only if the board were not to vote in favor of it.
And for those who would be voting differently, it would be appropriate to state our reasons before a vote, correct?
It would not be inappropriate.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Gottemoller.
Yeah, I haven't been held in contempt yet in court. I'd like to avoid being held in contempt. There's various stages. I assume this would be civil contempt, but if it goes beyond that, you can get criminal contempt. Judge can actually, in criminal contempt, order you to jail for 6 months without a hearing. So I don't think that the judge is over there going to order us to go to jail. I'm not saying that, but there are various stages, and but even in civil contempt, it can be a daily fine, and until it's cured. I'm not thrilled about where we're at. Thank you, Springfield. But, one of the members of the public talked about the LaSalle factors. The case in Grundy County that was heard in District 3 in Ottawa says the LaSalle factors no longer apply, period. I don't agree with that case, but it's not my case. I can't do anything about that. What I'm stuck with is a legislation in Springfield that gave us virtually no authority, but gave us the responsibility to vote for it. I mean, personally, I wish that they were going to do this. Springfield had just said, we're going to do it, just issue the orders, but they didn't. So we're stuck with it. I don't want to be paying their attorney's fees on the other side. I don't want to be paying court costs and other expenses. And I certainly don't want to be paying a daily fine until we get around to changing our mind and doing what the court said to do.
Mr. Shorten.
So if we vote no and this passes, there's no contempt.
If the board votes no,
I'm sorry, the board votes yes, but individually, a minority of us vote no, there's no contempt.
that's correct. There would be no contempt on behalf of the board if there is a majority vote to pass it.
Okay. And if the board voted against these, would the entire board be held in contempt, or the individual members that voted no?
The entire board.
Okay. And just to echo what Member Altoff said, we have been lobbying and trying to talk to our legislators down in Springfield, and I say our legislators, not necessarily our legislators, but legislators that represent other parts of the state, namely Cook County and Chicago. I went down in February with the McHenry County Council of Governments. A lot of our local municipal leaders were with us, the mayor of Cary, mayor of Crystal Lake. We had Algonquin, Richmond was there, and we met with leadership from both houses. And they sat and they listened politely, and the cries were loudest from our municipal leaders, because on June 1st, the same type of legislation that has put the county in this position, it went into effect for the municipalities. And the municipalities they're struggling with it. I'll reference specifically Algonquin spent about $2 million on public works, sewer and water, to make a piece of land more developable. Now, under Springfield's decree, it can be used as a solar farm, and there's nothing they could do about it. So we're down there, we're talking to them, and like I said, they listened politely and they did nothing. And I'm angry about this, and I don't know how I'm going to vote on Tuesday. And if this fails and we're held in contempt, criminal or civil or what have you, I'm not excited about that. But the problem is, the challenges that we have here is, and I don't want to get too rambunctious, but we just got past America. It's 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence, which was driven, and again, not being overly dramatic, I'm not taking up arms, but they were dealing with a lot of the same issues that we're dealing with here. The difference was that the government that was suppressing them was across the waters. Ours are a 30-minute drive away. There were particular acts in Massachusetts where they took away all of their local authority. They could not elect their representatives, and all the representatives were appointed by someone from England. So the challenge that we have here is that everything in Illinois comes down from the Illinois Constitution. That's where it all exists. and we're at their mercy. So, again, I don't know how I'm gonna vote on this on Tuesday in terms of a long-term solution, because we're, you know, step by step, we're in solar and wind in the counties, solar and wind, and batteries are now in play in the counties and in the municipalities. Springfield's trying to push on outside of this discussion, but they're impeding on local zoning for residential construction. And until, you know, we've got good representatives here in McHenry County that oppose these things, we got to figure out how to get the message into Cook County and into Chicago that we're not Cook County and we're not Chicago. Please stop treating us like that. Thank you.
Mr. Kunkel.
I agree with Member Altoff. We have to do everything we can to keep this out in front of Springfield. So long as we have a king in Springfield, I don't know that we get those changes. So voting, of course, helps for everybody. I was in favor of taking these all the way to trial, not to settlement, for that exact same reason. It sets a precedent. It lets people know that we are serious about having our rights and impugned here in this county. I've been a no on the solar votes consistently, and I will be a no on Tuesday's vote, because honestly, if they put me in jail, I could use the vacation time.
Mr. Kaminsky.
This may be a parliamentary question, but as we went back to our budget when we were voting on it, it kept going back and forth until we can get a budget. Is this a one and done vote, or can this be beat on until it gets over the finish line? Because I'm still a no, but I understand the ramifications, so I'm stuck in the middle, because I darn sure don't want this in Johnsburg, but I'm not too sure I want to go to the Hootskow either.
If it were to fail and a board member made a motion to reconsider, it could be reconsidered.
If I can just add, though, the consent order that was entered by the judge indicated that it needed to be completed, the vote needed to be completed by July 22nd. So that's
Okay.
not a parliamentary issue, it's a court order.
Okay. No further discussion on this item. Mr. Collins, 13A.
Thank you, Chair. And I appreciate the clarification where this came from. That was one of my questions, where this 13A originated from. I do support 13A. I think it's important that we have local control over projects that take place in McHenry County. I believe in that. However, I do have a problem with the process. All resolutions, regardless of where they originate, are supposed to go through a committee before they come before the county board. I will make a motion on Tuesday night to move this back to Administrative Services to be reviewed, which I'm sure I'll pass out of, and we can then consider in.
Well, it is a privilege of the chair to bring anything to the agenda. I do set the agenda, so it is my option to bring anything to the agenda that I wish.
No, I appreciate that, but our board rules 14.1 do say any resolution.
But the board rules don't apply to the chair.
Oh, okay, because it says chairman in 14.1.
It can say whatever it wants, but I'm not a board member, I'm the chairman.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that, and thank you.
Mr. Shorten?
On 13A, I just want to make the statement loud and clear that I'm a hard yes on this. We need to put this question before the voters, and I think it's going to be a resounding in support of bringing back local authority. And I think this is a way that we help get that message over to our friends in Cook County and Chicago.
Right. And if I could just say, just the conversations that we had here today and what we hear from the public and what we've been hearing from the public over the course of the last year and a half, 2 years that we're faced with this, I mean, I think it's very evident that our residents want us to do something. And even in our diminished capacity as far as a board with approval of these items, one thing that we can do is give a voice to our residents so that they can let Springfield know in a greater way what their opinion is on this. So this was really the impetus behind this. And I've heard it from multiple sources across the county for the last 2 years. So that was my reasoning for putting it on. Ms. Campbell?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I did have questions also about, in terms of bringing it forward, and I do know we've talked about this before, about the chair having the ability to bring something forward. And to me, it's about consistency. So I'm absolutely in favor of this resolution. It just brought up for me some inconsistencies sometimes in what gets brought forward because it complies with board rules or it doesn't. So trying to look at the board rules, and there's nothing I know in state statute that provides for the board chair to set the agenda. We do have in our board rules that the chairperson pursuant to section 3 of this article shall determine and establish the agenda. So I think that we go with that. That's been kind of the sentiment, except there's nothing in section 3 of that particular article that actually talks about the agenda or what those, giving it any kind of information or support. So I think, and the only reason I come through this a little bit is because we've, for example, when we were trying to look at board salaries, it didn't come forward because it didn't pass out of admin services, but it did pass, an amended form didn't pass out of finance, and it was not brought forward because it didn't conform to board rules. And so having that question about what the board rules are, to me, is going to be, would be helpful. Maybe looking back and understanding a little bit better about what this means in the board rules about section 3, because it doesn't actually go back and reference what that means.
This is not an authority that I've given myself. This is
No,
the board that has voted on this and agreed that the board or the chair sets the agenda.
No, I understand that. What I'm asking for is in the future clarification in terms of what that looks like, because it's referencing a part of the board policy that it really doesn't address the agenda. And that's all I'm asking about. And that's because I'm perfectly in favor of this particular resolution. It brought up concerns for me about being consistent, especially from things coming out of committee. And so if we could look at that in the future, that would be great. Thank you.
There are also time constraints here too. So I mean, as far as the next month's meeting would be one day too late to get a referendum on the agenda. So. Seeing no further comment, Mr. Scala, 13B and C, you want to take them together?
Sure, that'd be fine. My question is the same for both of them. Naturally, it becomes more critical of B than C, but my question is, nowhere in the resolutions do I see anything that it takes effect on a certain date. And I don't know, does that mean that the day that the vote is certified by the clerk that it becomes effective, or is it we can choose a date in the future, or I guess I'm a little, if we chose B and B is binding, we're not set up in order to do this, like as a county. So to me, if it becomes effective immediately at the certification of the vote, we're kind of screwing ourselves because there's a lot of change that happens with an executive form of government. So I guess I'm a little.
I guess we probably need a little bit of homework on how the legislation spells it out, correct? I mean, as far
Say
as
that again?
Would we need to refer to legislation?
Yes, I mean, we would have to do some research. I can get that answer to you as soon as I can. I don't know off the top of my head. I can tell you that right now.
Okay, well, to me, that's kind of important.
I agree with you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Hartman?
If there's a referendum, a binding referendum to move to an executive form of government, that would then take place at the next general election. So in the November 2028 election, there would be the election of the county executive. At that point in time, both the county executive and the home rule authorities would go into place.
Right, well, I guess, I mean, the chair would certainly be involved in that, and you couldn't change it midterm for the elected official.
No, it would be at the next general election.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Not unlike voting on salaries, you can't vote for current term. It would be the next term when it would start up.
So So am I hearing an answer that it would be 2028?
If there's a binding referendum, with the 2026 general election, if there's a binding referendum that passes, and it would go into effect with the seating of a county executive in 2028.
And you're positive about that?
My research, yes. But if you want to defer to the state's attorney to do a definitive opinion, that's certainly your prerogative.
If you're telling me that's what is factual, I'm willing to accept that.
We could also get a second opinion
I
from the
just
state
think
attorney's
that we
office,
should
so-
know that.
I can do some research on that.
Okay.
I just honestly, I don't know the answer to that specific question as
Okay.
I stand before you.
Okay. That'd be great. Thank you.
Mr. Kunkel?
Yes, I wish that 13A had come in about before 13B and C came about, because then it created basically a moot point for those. Because to my thinking, I don't like the executive form of government. Not that I don't believe this body currently seated could not run this county in the same defensive way that we do with an executive. But the future rolls on, and you cannot be sure with that kind of power centralized that this wouldn't go as bad as our situation has gone now in Springfield. So I'm not for the home rule for that event, but I'm also not a hypocrite. I take everything to my constituents in District 1 before I make a decision on these things, and therefore I am really in favor of this non-binding number 13C as well as 13A, because I do want to know how the constituent feels. Because once we start sitting up here and making these decisions of our own authority, then we become no better than the rest. We have to be cognizant of what our constituents in McHenry County want. I want to see 13A and I want to see 13C. I was not in favor of 13B, the binding resolution in administration, and we chose not to pass it along, but here it is. Because both 13A and 13C, we get a pulse of what the people of McHenry County want, not what this board wants for its future. Thank you.
Mr. Collins?
Thank you, Chair. And I apologize to members of Administrative Services that have heard this before. And Ms. Altoff, correct me if I'm wrong, this did not pass, the vote in law and government failed on this, correct?
Sorry, Ms. Campbell, you have to.
Before I answer that, I just want to note, that's twice in one day, Matt and I have agreed on everything. So it didn't, no, it did not pass out of law and government.
Okay, I just.
The binding referendum, and then the rest of the conversation relatively fell apart. But I would say no, the issue did not pass out of law and government.
Okay, I just wanted to make that note because it was not about Administrative Services. And I think in Administrative Services, we did not land up voting on 13B. We just voted on 13C, if I'm correct. Just to clarify the record on that. You know, my take on this is I'm against home rule completely and an executive form of government. I think that we as a county board are more than capable of managing the county and moving forward with meeting the needs of the county and what needs to be done. So I'm against it from that standpoint. As far as both of these resolutions are, I'm still not understanding the need for it to be a non-binding referendum. The fact of the matter is, I've heard a few different things, but in both instances, we'll understand the will of voters. If it's binding and they vote yes, then that's what they want to do. They want to go to that form of government. If they vote yes on the non-binding, then that's what they want to do. They want to go to that form of government. So the answer is the same in both cases. I've heard conversation about educating the public on what this means. And the time between the election today and November is the same either way. If we're going to educate people on what home rule and an executive form of government means, if we can't do it between now and November, then we should not be considering this at all. And if we have time to do it between now and November for a non-binding, then we have plenty of time to do it for a binding resolution. The other thing is, if this is this important, this was just brought about in June, Because I'm assuming it was brought forward in June because of a sense of urgency around getting this done with what Springfield is doing. Then, if I understand the timelines correctly from based on the research I did, if it's non-binding, then we'd be back we'd back up for vote in 2028, so 2 years from now, because it has to be done in even numbered years. And then we wouldn't go to this till 2030. So that's 4 years from now. So we have this urgency of getting this done immediately, but we're willing to wait 4 years to actually do it. That doesn't make any sense whatsoever. If it's that important, and it's something that we feel strongly that the people of McHenry County should weigh on, then we should let them weigh in on it. And if they say yes, move to that form of government as quickly as possible, because it's that important to do. So I'll be a no on both these on Tuesday night, particularly for those reasons. You know, I think that it's important that I agree with putting stuff in front of the people. I agree that people should have a say in their form of government, and we need to educate them on that, and then let them decide come November what that form of government is going to be. Thank you.
Mr. Kearns?
Yes, thank you. Is it possible that we would pass 13B and C and both referendums would be on the, I don't see how. If 13B were to pass, 13C, would we table that or not even vote?
I believe we're allowed to have up to 3 referendum on the ballot. So conceivably, yes.
Okay. That's all.
Ms. Campbell?
Thank you. So yes, I agree with Mr. Kunkel about the fact that the 13A was not here when we were first talking about this. But I want to get to what what we're asking about is home rule in these other two. And to me, running a home rule referendum is really just an attempt to, this particular home rule is to achieve home rule status under the guise of local control. Local control is a big deal. We know that. That's what this first 13A is all about. And it has caused huge problems for us because we don't have the control we need. But I think it's important to not make a mistake about this, because this is first and foremost a referendum about a fundamental change to our government structure. And what is really being proposed is the elected county executive form of government that concentrates the power in a single individual and unleashes unlimited taxing authority. Home rule is merely a byproduct, and any local control over specific issues is not guaranteed and can be explicitly exempted, as we have seen, both with solar and the potential for the BUILD Act. And I really do feel like this gets to timing, and we're being asked questions here today about when this would be on the, what's the timeline? Those are things that we haven't even talked about. So pushing the question to the voters before any meaningful review by this board is, to me, kind of backwards. And I feel to some extent it's an abdication of our responsibilities. We're asking our constituents to put more effort into figuring out what this new structure of government really means than we've been willing to do to date. I'm not saying we wouldn't do it, but we haven't done it so far. And it was stated during some meetings about, well, we don't want to spend staff time and money on this until we hear from the voters. And my response to that would be pushing the question forward is not cost neutral. And its staff provides analysis on all sorts of issues that come before this board on a regular basis. That's their job. It's the gold standard for ensuring sound, objective policymaking, and we rely on that analysis all the time. So my question is, why would this be any different? Nothing is stopping us from seeking voter input following our own review, which again hasn't taken place. The only information we've received to date is that you can't separate the elected county executive structure from home rule. So what is really asking voters to weigh in is not local control, because we know that's elusive, but concentrating the power in the hands of a single individual and allowing for unlimited taxing authority. And I know we're not going to do that. I agree. I think we've shown a lot of restraint here on this board, and that's not what we're looking to do. But you can't guarantee that future boards won't take advantage of this opportunity. And if we're serious about living within our means, then this referendum should be a non-starter. If you're willing to adopt the structure of government and all that comes with it. Otherwise, why are we pushing this? The fact that it's being considered raises serious concerns to me. Voters are calling on restate, and I'm a no on both referendums.
Mr. Gottemeier.
Yes, whether we do 13B or 13C, I'll let the board decide that. I think it's important to bring home rule forward because candidly, I'm tired of the county and the people in McHenry County being treated like second-class citizens in the state of Illinois. If you are part of Cook County, home rule is the only place that home rule exists is in Cook County. They've repeatedly passed legislation that we're stuck with and they're not. And I candidly would like us to be on equal footing. And if that means we change our structure of government so we're on equal footing, that's fine. That gives our citizens a lot of rights that they don't have today. Thank you, Chicago and Cook County. As far as costs and expenses and rearranging all those things, I'm happy to do that if it gives us those rights. As far as locally people being able to push us out or move us or do whatever, we've done very well in the last 10 years or so as a governing body of showing that we're a fiscally sound county. We don't raise taxes just to raise taxes. And if we were to change that and decide to raise taxes that way, we're not going to be elected in the next election. With the way it's set up today, Chicago makes that decision. We don't even get a vote. So yes, I'm in favor of this here. I absolutely want to go back to local control. I want the people in McHenry County to have a voice, and the only way they're going to get it is if we're on equal footing. And that's exactly why I want this on the ballot.
Mr. Shorten.
Going back to my statements earlier regarding the American Revolution, and this all comes down to the consent of the governed. There are things about home rule that I do like because we would have local control. There are other things. The county executive is a challenge, and it's not because of the county board chair that we have here or anyone here. You have to think of it as what's it going to look like 10 years from now if the wrong person gets into office. Ultimately, the home rule and the limits and liabilities that come with it are also set by Springfield. Now, whether it was at a time when Chicago had the majority or was before that, I don't know. But they control the law. And the one exception that Cook County gets a lot of times when Springfield passed law is a little clause in there with the exception of home rule counties. So they'll pass a law that applies to the rest of the state, every other county in the state, and Cook County gets a carve out. So that would be advantageous for us. I know taxation is a concern. That's a concern for me because the past 15, 20 years of McHenry County specifically, is a white paper for good governance, how to use technology and drive out cost and not increase taxes. We don't have any debt. Our spending per capita in McHenry County is, based on my research, about $1,000 per person. In Cook County, it's nearly $2,000 per person. And that's because we've had the restraint, B, we've had the restraint. We've done things the right way. And making a change like this sets a precedent of what's going to happen in the future. We don't know because we don't know who's going to be sitting up here. I would almost, if we're trying to communicate to Springfield our feelings with regards to zoning control, I would almost prefer, and it's probably too late in the game to do this, take that third referendum and ask the voters if they would like Springfield to decouple the county executive from home rule. And I think if we were able to communicate that message, and maybe other counties could do the same thing, in the long run, change that home rule so it's a little bit more, again, the county executive elected at large would be people that walk among us, who would be consent of the governed and not being governed by people from Cook County and from Chicago. And I'm not disparaging them. My mom lives in Cook County. She's a pretty good person. But I think if we try and communicate, we're communicating on 13A with zoning, 13C would have been a good opportunity to ask for a change in the home rule or change in some sort of structure of governance to give us more control here. Because it's just not everything that comes out of Cook and Chicago works everywhere else. Thank you.
Mr. Sager.
Thank you, Chair. I am incredibly grateful for today's conversation. To some, it might seem tedious, but I think that it's most worthwhile, and I think it's an important element of our democratic system. Unlike some, I do not believe that we are on the precipice of destruction or devastation, as evidenced by the very fact that we have conversations about the challenges of decisions, how the court interacts with the legislative area, et cetera. So we have these conversations. I am not one to say, woe is me, it's too difficult to make a decision because we don't know what's going to happen in the future. There are so many ifs out there that we just can't make a decision. We don't have that right. We cannot, as elected officials, push back from the table and say, boy, that's a tough one. I just can't vote on that. It is our responsibility to make those tough decisions. And we have to base them upon two things: what we think is best for today and what is best for the future. I am one that believes that those who come after us will be just as responsible and will be just as dedicated to service to the constituents and the citizens that they represent as we are today. So I don't think that we're going to find ourselves in, I don't care what year you name, but in any future year that we're going to say, that was the worst decision that we ever made. I just don't believe that. There have been some that are questionable, I agree, in the past, but we have taken steps to try to correct those. Why? Because we're trying to do the very best as representatives of the people in making decisions that affect today and tomorrow. I am not going to state my position on this at all, but I do believe that we cannot hide behind the concerns of what ifs or the future. That's our job. We make decisions based on what we believe is the best. And I have absolute confidence in every member of this body and, frankly, members of future bodies. Thank you, Chair.
Mr. Scala.
Yeah, so all this discussion got my thinker thinking. And if the referendum doesn't take effect till 28, which is what we believe tentatively is going to happen, there's nothing to prevent the state legislature from passing another law that goes back to change the home rule status on all past legislation, because theoretically it would become home rule. All the past legislation would be now enacted for us too, as it was written. So they could just pass another law that says, well, yeah, all that home rule crap, well, yeah, we just made it so it's now home rule over population of, pick a number, 1 million, 2 million, you know. And now we're screwed. We have an executive form, which I personally hate, and we're now screwed on the home rule situation also. So I gotta, I mean, as much as I am pissed at the legislators in Springfield, they have attorneys working for them who are, you know, just as bright as our attorneys are, who, you know, can say, oh, well, McHenry County just screwed themselves and look at what we just got them into. And you think so?
I think our attorneys are smarter.
Well, it just, the reality is, you know, I'm coming to the baseball game without a glove, without a ball, and without a bat. And it sucks. It sucks. I'm not supposed to use bad language, I'm sorry. It sucks. That's it.
All right. Mr. Collins.
Thank you, Chair, for one more comment. I agree with Mr. Scala completely. This is not going to be the panacea that people think it's going to be. And it's, and for the reasons he just stated, if they want something to apply, it's going to apply. And we're making just a dangerous thing, and that's all I'll say.
Last one. We're making this third time around the horn here. Mr. Campbell.
Okay, thank you very much for that. And I don't have a lot more to add. I do want to say that I like the fact that your thinker was working. I agree. I think that we're trying to get something that is elusive at best. They do pay attention. You see statutes out there that actually will identify population size in order to have a target a particular area. So I don't think that going for this simply to get a local control is really the way to do it. Thanks.
Okay, seeing no further comment, Mr. Sager, 17A3.
Yes, 17A3 is up for review, so there's not going to be any associated vote with it this coming board meeting, but I do think that 17A3, which will be considered in the future, is closely tied to 17B1, which is going to be up for our voting on Tuesday night. So I just wanted to make a couple comments about 17A3. It is specifically associated in the language here with regards to permits. That's why it's under this section, but permits for events that some might consider to be rodeos. It addresses violations. It addresses penalties. But in terms of outlining what is permissible and what is not permissible, I think it should align very closely with whatever we decide this coming Tuesday night in terms of 17B1. So when we're looking at particular events and activities, if we're talking about tailing, we need to use the same definition in 17.8.3 as we do in what is going to be passed, I hope, on Tuesday night. So I just want to make sure that we're all cognizant of the fact that we need to bring those in line. And specifically, I draw that to staff's attention. It would be 17A3, but in the section, it would be D8, subsection D, G, I, and N, D, G, I, and N. And I can go into details at a future meeting with regards to those, but I just am hoping the staff and all can recognize that we want to be consistent in the language across the board. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Ms. Althoff, 17B1.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to ask for the board's indulgence while I try and walk through this amendment to my amendment. We have dealt with this amendment in 3 committees. We have had numerous meetings with all of the affected bodies, including the Department of Public Health, the Sheriff's Department, Planning and Development, Animal Control, State's Attorney's Office, Emergency Management, and a host of others. What is in front of you, and you should have had it on Friday, so you've had some time to take a look at what's being proposed at this particular point. And I want to thank Member Sager, who will also address you about some additions he would like to make that I did not want to include in what's in front of you because I didn't feel that I had obtained that specific direction from a majority of people at the committee level. So we should have that discussion momentarily. I also want to thank Member Hendricks who also attended one of the meetings and talked legalese, attorney to attorney, that I was at and didn't follow half of it. But I want to thank him for his participation and understanding. I also want to thank Member Krieger for being very interested in following along and making several suggestions. And lastly, the Farm Bureau for participating in several of the meetings with the limited authority that they did have. And I am going to concur loudly that Mr. Vokers did represent the position of the Farm Bureau, that they would still like to be able to have the opportunity to work with all of us on crafting an ordinance that they are more comfortable with. Although I will opine to all of you that by incorporating the current State of Illinois Humane Care for Animals Act within our ordinance, we have addressed many of those concerns, as well as including specifically exemptions for the good animal husbandry practice, as well as including a defensible language that will give people who may be concerned a little bit more comfort that they can go and defend any action that may be misinterpreted. So I think that we've done a remarkable job after having these conversations with everyone. So again, let me be clear. It's an ordinance about animal cruelty. It is not changing our current practices in responding or documenting alleged incidences of animal cruelty or confirmed incidences of animal cruelty. Also, what we did is added specifically the definition of tailing. There is only an active piece of legislation at the state level, including tailing in the Humane Care for Animals Act. It has not been considered yet by either one of the chambers, but it is an active bill out there moving through the process. And also, thank you, Mr. Chair, for bringing up, we also included language that says if in fact the state does take action in our efforts to increase the penalties, the fee penalties, that this ordinance will already be in effect and we will have the ability to also fine the maximum allowable under state statute. So we're being a little bit proactive in that venue. I will be happy to answer any questions, but really what I would like, oh, one other thing, I apologize. The reason we felt very strongly that we needed to take this action and include these provisions in our animal control ordinance was to absolutely ensure that we have factual neutrality, as well as giving our state's attorney the availability of having, and don't take this in a negative fashion, this is the statement, a lower bar in which to prosecute individuals who have in fact been charged with animal cruelty. It's a lot easier in McHenry courts to have a McHenry ordinance as opposed to depending upon a state statute. So that's one of the reasons that we wanted to have an ordinance at this particular level. I believe I have covered. Oh, and again, we have limited this to just animal entertainment and sporting events. So we, again, tried to be very cognizant of our affiliation and our admiration and our dependency on farming in McHenry County. So we did do everything that we thought we could possibly do. We had great guidance. We talked to many individuals. I'm going to turn the floor over, with Mr. Chair's permission, to Mr. Sager, and he can explain to you why he feels that the other information that was presented to you that were for further consideration, that were on the backside or attached to the memo that you did receive with my proposal. I'm going to turn the floor over to him, and again, maybe we can have a robust conversation about what's in front of us. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Sager.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Pam. I appreciate that. I do think, before we get started, and I don't want to be overly redundant, but I do think that we need to take a moment to thank a lot of people. I think we all know first that issues of concern were raised by a number of people within the county. And I think we all heard those pleas, if you will, for efforts to control better what is happening within McHenry County boundaries to certain animals. And we didn't think that that activity was correct and that we needed to do something to curtail that. So we listened to them, and I'm grateful for their voice. I also want to certainly thank Pam as being the chairman of Law and Government and kind of shepherding this whole process and the good intent here. Tracy for being the chair of Public Health and her efforts in leading that discussion. Larry for his discussion of PD and leading that conversation, and certainly members Krieger and Hendricks for their input into this thoughtful effort. Also, staff members. We've got some great staff members who've really done a lot of work, certainly from State Attorney's Office, Kyle and Kevin, Melissa and Mary Ellen from Public Health, and Adam of Planning. So we thank them all for their significant leadership and staff advice, which was wise and thoughtful, and I'm most grateful for that. Finally, certainly the Farm Bureau membership representing the agriculture community and the livestock producers within our county. Dan Volkers is here today, and we're grateful for his participation in this session, but also the leadership of that organization. What we have tried to do is to find balance. I don't think anyone is aware of the depth and the breadth of the complexity of these types of issues, and we are not the first to wrestle with them. Many other places have wrestled with this over the years. In my experience, we've wrestled with it in the city of Woodstock. We wrestled with it for many years at the Illinois State Fairs and county fairs to ensure that we were providing a good quality showcase for livestock producers within the state of Illinois and around in surrounding states that shows that we are responsible producers. We nurture our livestock. They are our bread and butter, frankly. And so it's essential that we show people in the public that we know how to care for animals, and yet at the same time provide exposition opportunities that, one, shows, yes, a competitive nature and builds the industry and the breeds of livestock, but also provides a good showcase for Illinois agriculture and for livestock production. It's a balance to recognize all voices. That's an important voice. But we have the voice of those who are strongly dedicated and committed to animal welfare and express that voice routinely. So we try to balance those two things and keep them all on an even keel. Members of the public have in the past, in some instances, gone to one extreme, and those of us in fairs and expositions have gone to the other extreme. We've got to find that middle balance, which is hugely important. But that was part of our effort. I will admit I'm a strong proponent of animal welfare, but I'm also a very strong proponent in protecting agriculture's and oversighted fairs and expositions within the state of Illinois. So with that then, I appreciate what Pam has put down here as an amendment. It's identified on the handout that you have before you today on the front page as amendment adding to section 8.04.920.A the following, and that language is something that I, in general, am very and most supportive of. I am particularly grateful for the addition of the definition of tailing. I think that's hugely important. And I also appreciate the section in terms of penalties, fines, and remedies as highlighted in red there, which incorporates the commentary that Pam just said. We will keep it in concert or equitable to state statute as is developed in the future. So I'm very, very grateful for those things. On the backside, though, there are a couple things that I would really like to see addressed. I think these are consistent with what has been efforts across the Illinois Department of Agriculture, our state fairs and expositions, and in my mind, the individuals, the entities that have tried to bring this balance to bear in language that we can all understand and we can uphold. So that's the reason that I suggest some amendments here to the proposed amendment. So We'll have to go through the process of Robert's Rules here to see how we want to handle that on Tuesday night. But my amendments are, first, to add a C under the exemptions. This prohibition, it would read, this prohibition does not apply to the following. Does not apply to the following. Laying down of an animal for medical or identification purposes. When you are in animal agriculture, you have to make sure that animals are properly identified. You want to make sure that they are properly cared for with appropriate medical care, and you have to at times tie animals, lay them down to take care of those important responsibilities. B, the normal good animal husbandry practices as recognized by the Illinois Department of Agriculture and supported and practiced in this county throughout the state of Illinois, and I would suggest throughout the nation and internationally in terms of animal husbandry, livestock production. So no concerns there, but I would like to add an additional exemption to meet what I believe are fair and appropriate requests of our local ag community and would be consistent with all county and state fair activities within the state of Illinois. I would like to change verbiage just a little bit there as it's listed here, and it would read animal events held in conjunction with the McHenry County Fair and Harvard Milk Days. So that is going to be my amendment to add that exemption in here. We've had lots of discussion with our state's attorney's office with regards to why they think that that's a challenge. In my mind, this is appropriate. And then frankly, if we as a body believe that this is appropriate, then, and I hate to say it so bluntly, but I've said it to them, I might as well say it to you all, then it's the state's attorney's office to defend that position. Period, point blank, that's it. And I strongly believe, I believe the agricultural community strongly believes that we need to add a C as an exemption. Animal events held in conjunction with the McHenry County Fair and Harvard Milk Days would be exempted. Why? Because they're already oversighted. We don't have to be redundant in that. Okay, so that's that. Then I would like to add to the paragraph number 3 at the top of the amendment, section 8.04.920.A. I would like to add in that paragraph something that goes beyond tailing. And the reason is because I don't want us to be caught in court that to say that we were emphasizing tailing here and we were doing that to go after a particular group or ethnicity. I think we have to be careful or cautious about that. And it is typical to have 2 other areas, very importantly, added to what is considered to be inhumane treatment. So in the penultimate line of that paragraph 3, inhumane treatment or care of an animal includes, but is not limited to, comma, the tailing of any species of animal. 1, that's great. But 2, I want to introduce the amendments as stated on the back page: kicking, facially striking, hitting, or prodding by means of a sharp or electrified instrument or general beating of animals, and the use of drugs, and I'm going to add something there too, stimulants, the use of drugs, stimulants, or external body irritants to excite or energize animal behavior in event activities. That is at state competitions, state fairs, it is in county competitions. Those 2 things should be equally identified as what we might define as inhumane treatment of animals. So I would like to see those 2 additions added. From that, Mr. Chair, that would conclude my comments, but I'm open to any questions or concerns that any members might raise. Thank you.
Thank you. You have something to add, Ms. Altoff?
I was just going to say, if it helps move the issue forward, what I would ask is that we have the version in front of everyone now of my amendment, and then also have an amendment including Member Sager's recommendations as a second template in front of us on Tuesday night, and then we can take a vote on one or both, and we can come up to a decision. I think the board members might want a little bit of time to, again, consider which way they want to go. So I would offer that as potential process. And again, I just wanted to note that I also will be presenting a second amendment that incorporates changes to sections 1 through 7 of the public health ordinance that was in front of you. And those recommendations come from a collaboration between the state's attorney's office and the Board of Public Health. So, and I don't think that there's anything that's significant in those amendments. Many of them were Scribner's errors. Many of them were just clarifications from the state's attorney's office. But again, if you would look at that information that was distributed to you this morning, if you have any questions, please feel free to give me a call before Tuesday night's meeting. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Kunkel.
Yeah, we can't and we won't, this board, get all of this right. It's not possible, and it's not possible to balance and make everybody happy. But in the terms of the Farm Bureau, in the terms of Member Scala and our duck and cover and not do the referendum, and in terms of the people here for the solar that we've taken as far as we legally can take, the only thing that it takes for tyranny to prevail is for good people to do nothing. This board puts forth the effort, we hear what you say, and we move on it. This point right here is proof of that. We've tried to take everything fairly into consideration, including the law, and as Dr. Sager said, we're pushing it right to the edge for the law, as we did with the solar. We put forth the effort. We're doing our part to keep tyranny from prevailing, and I think the effort shows and is proven out successful more often than not. Thank you.
Mr. Collins.
Thank you, Chair. On A3 for Mr. Sauger, what is the concern there? You mentioned a legal concern. What is that concern?
Well, and perhaps I'm not the better individual to address this question, but as expressed by the state's attorney, is that they believe that too many exemptions provide questions and kind of open us up for scrutiny. So I won't say any more and ask the state's attorney's office to perhaps address that.
There was a memo, I cannot remember the date of the memo, but within the last couple of weeks, I would ask that you refer to the memo that should explain the concerns or the challenges.
It was my memorandum to the PED committee, I believe.
Can you re-forward it to us?
Yes, we can.
Absolutely happy. Did that go to the whole board or just PED? Was it admin?
It was, yeah.
I apologize. Thank you. I'll look that up. Thank you.
No worries.
I'm going to take the opportunity, I'm sorry to say that I still believe, even in light of that memorandum, which I am most grateful for and I'm most respectful of, I still believe that we have the authority as a body to protect, if you will, those who are already animal producers, livestock producers, to protect their events, McHenry County Fair, Harvard Milk Days, from what I would say is overreach in terms of scrutiny. So I think we can defend that. And I believe that we have to do what we think is right, and we were going to ask our colleagues in the state's attorney's office to defend that. Thank you.
Mr. Kearns.
Thank you. Under our past, before any of this has come to light, have the law enforcement and health department or animal control, have we pressed any charges on this to any individuals? And when did we press those charges? Is it the last year or two? Have there any been charges brought forward for animal cruelty pertaining to these events?
We had the sheriff here today to answer your question.
Yes, we have, and I think there was a case actually yesterday that got continued for sentencing as well. So we have had criminal charges from last year's, I think it was a 2025 case, that we did do criminal charges on. I believe it was 4 individuals from an event. It may have been 5, but yes, we have.
Okay, and so there's one that was yesterday. Are they all continued, or are any been resolved?
No, I believe some of them have been resolved. I'd have to go back to the court cases, but I believe that some of them had taken pleas on criminal charges. I know yesterday's sentencing was just continued, but other ones have been closed.
Okay, thank you, Sheriff. So this and I appreciate you guys enforcing this when it's brought forward to your attention. And so here is my concern on all of this, these amendments and everything else in this particular ordinance, in this amendment. Currently, and the sheriff has brought forward charges for animal cruelty on this very subject under our current ordinance. I understand, and in the UDO amendments, text amendments, it describes all of it, brings it out. And if we pass those UDO, the one that's on 30-day review now, if we pass those, I see no need other than the public health department or the dog or the, I'm sorry, no need for other than to address in the animal control side that we follow the humane treatment of animals laws. And I don't think we need to define anything in that since we've already been able to bring charges forward. I don't understand this, that they can't, that the state's attorney wants more to do it. I think we're creating more problems than we're resolving with this. And I would rather just address it in the UDO and address it that way. I see no other reason to put these amendments forward because it's being defined under the UDO when we pass that one, and it does not need to be in the public health. Therefore, all the conflicts that come up with all the fair and what Mr. Sager is bringing forward amendments, all of that is mute because we've handled that. It's not in there, but we follow humane treatment of animals, which we have already been charging people with. We're opening up a can of worms for the other organizations and possibly other legal ramifications coming backwards through discrimination or whatever it claims. So I think we leave it out. We just do it in the UDO and we leave this amendment out totally. Other than we follow the humane treatment of animals by the state of Illinois rules. All of this is addressed in there already.
Sheriff Tatelman, you have something to add?
Yeah, and I just want to remind that we work with animal control and the health department, not just specific to these events, but we have other cases that have come up criminally where we have charges come up through, you know, you name it, where I've known that we've had horses or poor treatment of animals, you know, regardless of type. We do criminal investigations in conjunction with our partners and their expertise, so we do still file criminal charges with the help of the state's attorney's office as well.
Thank you, and absolutely, we actually have all this in place. We don't need to reinvent the wheel here.
Ms. Altoff.
I watched my state's attorney's representatives in the audience cringe when it was alluded to the fact, I want to be very clear, state's attorney's office never has told us what they want, that they don't do that. What they do is they make recommendations and suggestions based on their expertise and their experiences in our courts, but they never tell us what they want. Their job is to represent us, and they have made that abundantly clear. So I just want to clarify that so everybody understands that that is the issue. And with regard to the cases working, I just want to note that the reason that these specific cases that were determined were because the individuals who were prosecuted for the events of animal cruelty pled guilty. So they were recognizing that that would be to their advantage. I have no idea if in fact it was at a lesser charge or whatever, but they pled guilty. So that made it move a little bit more quickly. Don't lose sight of the fact that even though we brought them forward based on our current animal cruelty ordinance, that it was specifically the courts moved because they themselves determined it was in their best interest to plead guilty. So I did want to point that out. And I think the tailing is absolutely necessary as a definition because other counties as well have had issues within their own courts about this. And that's why there's a bill in Springfield right now. So let's be a little bit proactive and include it in our ordinances so that, again, it's local, it's ours. We're saying here in McHenry County, you cannot do this, as opposed to waiting for the state of Illinois to take action or just assuming that the courts are going to understand that tailing is animal cruelty. So again, I don't want to belabor the point. Questions, please ask. I'm available, not going anyplace, so feel free to reach out to myself, Brian, or anybody who is in any of those extensive meetings. I think we've kind of discussed this issue ad nauseum at 3 committees. I think there were only 3 board members that actually did not hear the full scope of the conversations. So again, thank you, Mr. Chair, for your courtesy.
I'm not done. I want to respond to this.
All right, Mr. Kearns.
Okay.
Floor is
Well,
yours.
I'll respond to this, to what you're saying. We are defining the tailing in the UDO. We do not need to put it anywhere else. It is defined in the UDO. It is, if the state goes ahead and does it, well, fine, let the state change things. But there, we've defined it in our UDO. We've done our job. The sheriff has done his job. He's filed charges. They've taken these people to court, and they've pled guilty. Whether it's a plea deal or not, whether you have this in there or not, they're still going to plea deal them down to, from a felony to a misdemeanor, whether we have that in there or not. Don't tell me it's easier to fight this in court because you have it defined in here and muddying the waters, as I say, under the animal control ordinance. It is very clear under the proposed amendments to the UDO. So we have that. We do not need to add anything else. If the state wants to further, just like they did on solar farms and everything else, if they want to overrule anything that we say and add extra things to it, then so be it. Let them add extra things to the humane treatment of animals and everything else. Let those put those definitions even further. We've already done it here by putting it into the UDO. We do not need to open up the county agriculture fair that are already addressed those rules. The Harvard days, those are already addressed, as Mr. Sager has brought forward, which is why he wants to exempt them. So we don't even need to do that because they're already addressed. They don't have the tailing. They don't have any of those things go on because their rules regulate that already, and they enforce it. They boot the people out if they're going to do it, and so they don't allow it. So we're at the same time putting our rules into the UDO. We don't need all this gobbledygook in the animal control ordinance. They already are covered. Humane treatment animals. Historically, the sheriff has prosecuted, and they have prosecuted dog owners. They have prosecuted farmers who don't feed their animals and starve their animals, and they've prosecuted on that. So, and charged. So we have it all covered. I mean, you can't even claim we don't enforce it because the sheriff has been enforcing it along with the animal control and other people and those things. We don't need to make this muddier when it comes to the animal control ordinance. We don't need to. And I'll say that. You can talk all around that and give all the excuses. It's unneeded. The unintended consequences of putting this into the animal control side, your people are going to claim, but hey, Joe over here is doing this kind of event with their show steer, and you guys should be in there. And the health department can go into the fairgrounds and override the fair board's rules. So we're creating a conflict, and we don't need to create that kind of a conflict. So I'll leave it at that. But I'd also ask that on the ordinance, we can split that vote if we divide the question, is what they call it, right? We can divide the question and remove that amendment to vote on the rest of it and vote on amendment separately.
I believe you can make any amendment you choose.
Okay. If we leave that on there, I would, Tuesday, I will be asking to divide the question. Thank you.
Is that all you have, Mr. Kearns?
That's all I got.
Okay. Mr. Sager.
Forgive me, Chair, but I'm going to add to the nauseam, and I'll try to do this briefly, but I have great deal of respect for Jim, of course, as a primary producer within the county. But I think that we discussed early on that the approach would probably best if dealt with in a dual pathway, a dual-pronged approach between the UDO and the Health Department ordinances for animal rights and welfare. And based upon the argument that has just been presented, then why do we have the whole section in the public health ordinance with regards to cruelty to animals? You know, it falls directly under that, which is already there, and we're not just going to remove that because the UDO has this other language in it. So I think we have to be very mindful of the fact that cruelty to animals is a broad issue. As we indicated before, it's very complex, and our effort here, a significant effort, with much gratitude to so many people, is one to find the balance. I think that what is before us, specifically including the amendments that I am going to suggest, I think is a very balanced, and I would argue from my mind, based upon my experience, a right pathway for us to take. Thank you, Chair.
Please, Sheriff.
I would like to respond to that I think you misunderstood what I was saying. I was not asking to remove the state statute reference to the humane treatment of animals. I was not asking for, that's in there already. And therefore, this addition, all these additions have nothing to do with that. So that is already currently in there.
Okay. I believe Sheriff Tatelman has something to add.
Yeah, and I just want to clarify some things. The sheriff's office, when we get these types of complaints, we look at it through the criminal aspect. I understand there's, you know, the ordinance, but that's why we work with the health department and animal control, because they have the authority to actually write an ordinance violation, which they do, and they do often. We will work with them on a parallel path so that we will file the state criminal charges, and then the animal control can also file the ordinance violation as well.
Currently, that's your current process.
Correct.
Okay, seeing no further discussion, Mr. Hartman, you have an administrator's report for us today?
Yes, I do. And based on the conversation with this amendment, I'll be repackaging what's before you. It'll be two sides. One will be Member Altoff's original amendment, and the second one will be Member Altoff's amendment with the incorporation of Member Sager's additions, and that way you'll have some clarity when we go into Tuesday's meeting. Secondly, the only other item I want to report, your departments and offices are actively engaged in the budget development. We've had several meetings thus far, working with them on next year's fiscal year 2027 budget. I do want to appreciate the work of our finance team for corralling all this information, but we are about waist deep now in budget, and just to let you know where we're at. That's all I have.
Thank you. With that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Mr. Scala makes a motion. Ms. Altoff